recording. All right, so opening up Unreal for the first time. Never done that before. You have Unreal Engine installed. Just because you have this picture right here and you posted it to the Discord does not actually mean that your machine can run Unreal. It means you installed it. Now open it up. Dun dun dun. You're gonna hear those fans kick on your laptop, like that. A sweet symphony of fan cooling. So you can go ahead and click the launch button. This is just to create your first project. If you want to create a new project every week, I don't care. If you want to use the same project throughout the weeks, that's fine. It's the same project can have an infinite number of what we call levels or maps. A map is like a unique environment, right? When you see a loading screen in a game, it's loading a new map, a new environment, a new place. The benefit of using the same project is that any assets that you import are already going to be there. You won't have to re-import them into a new project. So when you click launch, it's going to ask you, yours probably won't have this stuff because you don't have any projects, unless you do. It's going to ask you what sort of project that you want to create. And where do you want to put it? Good question. I would suggest just doing games and probably blank. You go ahead and play around with this stuff too. These are presets for, like, if you're making a first-person game or a third-person game. It's kind of fun to mess around with these. If you just wanted to see like a third-person character run around your world that you built, that's fine. But I'm just going to do blank. These other settings are for other things, like if we are doing a virtual production or something with a lot of projectors. I'm just doing a game blank. And then wherever you want to put that on your hard drive or your external hard drive. You call it, I have a folder on my hard drive called Unreal Projects. It's on a second hard drive in this laptop. And then I'm going to make a new folder. I'm just going to call this project blank. That's a great name. And then what the actual project name is. The default is my project. I recommend you naming it something else. Otherwise, you're going to have half dozen my projects. And then you click create, and it will create it. Oh, actually, also, you can just leave these things at their defaults. Starter content is optional. With that checked, it brings in some very basic assets that are nice to have. If you do that and you see that the stuff isn't really anything you care about, next time you can just leave that unchecked. Also, if your computer is really struggling and you know it's going to struggle, this is an opportunity to change the quality. It's the graphics quality. You can also change the graphics quality after you actually have the level editor open, but this gives you an opportunity to do that first. Don't do C++ unless you're really brave, but I won't be able to help you. And then you click create. It does take a little time to process, depending on how powerful your computer is. I'm not going to click create right now because I've already done that. And I'm just going to let this open. So depending on the capabilities of your machine, this could take a while. I have a pretty good laptop. So it's not current gen, but last gen. So this will load up. When you create a project for the first time and load it for the first time, it might take longer than usual to load. It's compiling all the shaders and the graphics. It has to do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Don't freak out. You know that little black Unreal Engine Vaporwave looking logo that popped up there for a second? You see a percentage down bottom. It's not there anymore. Here, let me just close this down and load it again. This window. This is the percentage down bottom. First time you do this, or if you have a really crappy machine, that percentage might pause at like 45% for what seems like ages. Don't panic. Just wait longer. Okay? It might pause at 66%. It might pause at 90%. There's very specific spots that it likes to pause. Just wait longer. How long? Well, I don't know how good or bad your computer is, so I can't tell you. On certain projects before, I've waited like an hour. When I was loading a lot of plugins the first time, like a big map. Like if you went and downloaded the Matrix example map, yeah, that would probably be one that take like an hour to load up. If it's just the basic project like this, less so. Although if this still takes an hour, maybe we need to have a conversation. Okay. So after you have things opened up, this is what will load up. This is a very weird layout real quick. Let me go to the default layout. This is the default layout. Depending on which project, if you don't choose game blank, this might not open up like this. This is the default open world map. If you go to File, New, Level, there's some presets here. Empty level has nothing in it. Open world is what I have right now. It has like some mountainous terrain. I don't think I've ever used that. So I would probably recommend just doing basic, unless you're doing a mammoth-sized world. Basic is fun. And basic map looks like this to start with. All this stuff you can delete. This is just placeholder. All this stuff is listed here in the outliner. The outliner is a list of every actor in the world. How do you select things? You can select them by clicking on them in the window. You can select them by clicking on them in the outliner. You see when I click on it in the world, it jumps to it in the outliner. There's a little eyeball next to things. It doesn't permanently hide them, but it temporarily hides them, turns them on and off, just like a layer in Photoshop. Delete things. You select it and hit delete on your keyboard. Delete, not backspace. Mac people, delete, the real delete. How do I move around in 3D space? You should really get yourself a mouse. Trackpad, it's going to be tough. You can do it, but it's going to be tough. So hold down left click and drag, and that drives you forward and back. Moving your mouse while holding left click turns your head, essentially, if you think of yourself like as the first person camera right now. Holding down right click allows you to pivot your head, changing the yaw and the pitch. Holding down left and right mouse buttons allow you to pan, or video game terminology, strafe.
Why is it called yaw and pitch?
I don't know. I don't fly an airplane, so I don't know. I have no idea. Does anybody know? Any flight simulator people? No? I don't know. That's a good question.
Those flight words?
I think so. Maybe. Half the words that come out of my mouth, I don't understand what they are anyway. But, that is actually what it's called. Or XYZ. So, the Y and then Z be yaw. So holding down left and right mouse button allows you to strafe. And you kind of just use all these things in tandem, and you get comfortable doing it. Just to focus around what it is that you're looking at. These controls are like any 3D program. They shouldn't be that new. If you're used to using Blender or Maya or C4D, perhaps you use like Shift or Alt to, you select something like, this is the icon for the sky sphere. If I hold down Alt and right mouse button, that allows me to zoom in and zoom out. If I hold down Alt, I can, pivot around it with left mouse button. If you hit the F key on your keyboard, F for focus. Focus centers it. Careful, don't focus on the sky sphere or you will zoom way out of your level. Like,
Oops.
I told you,
Whoops.
like that. Whoop. So you either can drive yourself in by picking up your mouse a million times, or you can just double click on something else in the outliner. Double clicking on something in the outliner also focuses it.
That's straight for them.
Left and right mouse buttons simultaneously, or a middle mouse button if you have a 3-button mouse. Oh, this is my one sec. This is my unrelated, tangentially related public service announcement for young people doing computing. Pushing pixels. Do your body a favor. Get yourself a vertical mouse. Get yourself a nice computing chair, nice ergonomics, or your body will be a mess like this body is. From sitting in high school too much like this in my chair, herniating all my discs in my spine. Not from any football injuries, just from too much Warcraft and Starcraft and Counter-Strike.
On years of gaming, I've already fucked up my wrist.
Right?
Yesterday.
Too much Diablo repetitive stress injury. No, seriously, it's like it will fuck you up. You don't think about it, you're not invincible. Especially like the repetitive stress injury. That sucks. I got a trackball for a while because my left click button was like really giving me a lot of pain. So I got a trackball mouse, which was really awesome. And it had a learning curve, but I learned how to use it. It was actually faster than a regular mouse. But then I got a repetitive stress injury in my thumb instead of my. And the vertical mouse helped a lot. I'm technically left-handed, so I thought about switching to my left hand, but I don't really know how to use a mouse with my left
Let's
hand.
just hope your interface pushes out faster.
Right? Yeah. A lot of designers that I know, they actually use a pen tablet rather than a mouse because it's less RSI, repetitive stress injury. Anyways, that's my public service announcement. You had a question?
When we create a new level, or like in the way that we just did, like doing file in a new level,
Mhm.
that erased our previous open world that we lived in, essentially, right? We didn't make
Um.
level.
Well, that map's just a default map, so it's technically not saved to start with. That's a good question. In order to save your stuff, which is maybe a little bit important in this sort of stuff, file save current level as will then prompt you what do you want to call this level and where do you want to save it in your content browser. After you do that, I recommend always doing save all. The difference between save current level and save all is that save current level just saves the level, which means it just saves the things that you put in the level and references to them. If I imported a giant dinosaur into my project from the marketplace, if I just did save current level, it's not saving the dinosaur that I just imported. If I pick save all, then it saves all. So I recommend always clicking save all. One sec. If you look in your, I don't have a new file to bring in to look at it, but in your content drawer down bottom, if this level wasn't saved, it would have a little asterisk on it telling you that it's not saved. You should click the save all button. The save all button is also right here. Save all. Question?
Yes. If I'm doing Unity, is a level sort of the same as a scene?
Yeah, I think so. Unity people, is that true? I haven't used Unity in a long time. Yeah. Welcome to the dark side. So yeah, if I went to save current level as, it would ask me, I don't know, let me just add something to this level really quick. Does everybody does everybody have the place actors window over here or no?
On the right.
On the left.
Nah, it's like what you have here.
Oh, that's weird. I guess that's not the default. Strange. If you go to Window, Place Actors, this will allow you to place some basic stuff. Really basic stuff. And that will pop up on the left side here. So there's a light bulb for lights. There's a cube for basic primitive shapes. So I'm just showing you for a second, like I'm going to drag a cube in here. And if I go to File, Save Current Level As, and I just call this cube, select the folder that you want it to go in. I would probably call this level_cube style guide. Now this map is saved where I saved it right here. So I have it open currently, but now if I went to File, New Level, Empty Level, it's empty, there's nothing here. But if I go back to my content drawer, there's my level. There's my level cube. If I double click that, opens back up the cube level.
It's a save layout.
File, Save Current Level As is sort of like Save As in any program, but that just saves the level. Save All saves assets that you imported or modified.
Does it like make another duplication of the thing that you pulled in, and then like just when the next time when you open it, it just like puts that duplication in there, or does it refers to like the initial asset that you pulled?
The assets don't get duplicated unless you specifically duplicate them in the content browser. And you can do that by right-clicking on them and saying duplicate. If I took my cube map and I went to Save Current Level As and I said cube map 2, cube map 3, cube map 4, I can make iterations of the map if that's what you're asking. It wouldn't duplicate the assets. It would just duplicate the map. The map would be a separate standalone thing that references the same assets. All those maps would reference the same assets. Sort of like, in After Effects, if you had 10 different compositions, they're all referencing the same video file. It doesn't duplicate the video file unless you specifically duplicate the video file. Okay, so in the content browser, oops, that's strange. Can't get this file menu to disappear. Sometimes this happens when I'm sharing my screen and recording with OBS simultaneously. It's like a graphics bug. If I go to New Level again. No, we're just going to have to live with this menu here. Doing it live. All right, so if you go to the content drawer, personally I find this a little annoying that it retracts all the time. You can go up to Window, Content Browser, if you want to just like permanently stick one on your screen. All these windows, you can drag them around and rearrange them if you want. Like, I just fucked everything up right here. God damn. There we go. So if I put a cube in my level, or if I went to the content drawer and I dove into some of these files here, I have the starter content. I left that checked on. So there's some stuff in here like props and materials and particle effects. So if I go into the props folder, there's a chair here. How do I get it in my level? You just drag it in. There's a couple different ways to do it, but dragging it in is the easiest. So then there's these tools on them here. This is the translator tool. So you just grab onto these arms to move it around. You can select different things like rotation and scale with these buttons up top here. You can also use the space bar. Although, is the space bar going to work? Yes. Okay. You hit the space bar, you see my widget is changing from scale to rotation to translation. You can also select the object And in the details panel, which is down here, you could change all those numbers directly if you just wanted to deal with the numbers rather than changing it by moving the thing around in the level. It's all half a dozen different ways to do the same thing. So when you click on an object and view its details, there's a bunch of stuff here to look at. Like what material is on it? What static mesh is it using? What's its position in the world? What's its rotation in the world? Does it cast a shadow? Is it visible or not? There's all sorts of stuff. Is it simulating physics? There's a lot of stuff here. Most of the stuff we won't use. But those are the details where you change stuff about the object. So one thing I really wanted to cover, though, was how to bring assets into your world. So we can go to the marketplace really quick. Really, for this assignment, I just want you to experiment a little bit. You know, it's new software for most of you. I just want you to kind of get your bearings and mess around. There's no pressure to build something amazing, so long as it's something. Okay. What do I want to get here? So when you go to the marketplace and you add something, it will eventually pop up in your vault after you check out. Your vault is your repository of stuff that you bought, whether it's free or not free. And then to add it to your project, you find what you want. Like I'm going to add this iceberg here. And it says add to project. It's going to ask you which project you want to add it to. You will probably only have one, but I have a lot. Pick the project you want to add it to. If for some reason your project does not pop up, click this box, show all projects. That's because the asset wasn't updated to use Unreal Engine 5.1. Just tell it to act like it's using 5.0 and it will be fine. So click on the project you want to add it to, add to project. Wow, 700 megabytes for fucking iceberg? Wow. We don't have time for that.
Detailed iceberg.
We don't have time for that. Let's click on this other one instead. All right, 88 megabytes. I can deal with that. So it has to download. This gets downloaded to your computer. So if you have a lot of stuff, you might not want all this stuff downloaded. You can remove these things by clicking on the little drop down button here. See, most of them, mine are not yellow because I don't have hardly any of these downloaded because I'm not using them. That will allow you to remove it from your local cache. They don't disappear from your vault. They just aren't downloaded. They aren't downloaded to your computer anymore.
Some add the project, like create project, does that mean you have to build it on that?
That means you need to actually have it create another project, and then you need to go in that project and migrate the asset from one content browser to the other content browser, which is a little more annoying to do. Most things are add to project. But in the syllabus, I show you how to migrate from one project to another one, which is a useful thing to have, to know how to do. Some assets, which are built around enormous levels, they're less pieces and more entire things. So that's why they have you create a project. It's annoying because sometimes you're like, I just want that thing. Well, you got to create the whole project first. This sucks. Good question.
Do they have like a reason to do that?
It's just because it's more of like a complete project rather than a piece of a project. It's
like packed together. So when you want to like have something from that, you have to unpack them all together.
yeah, it's not like you're just getting an iceberg. There's a bunch of other stuff and programming that comes along with it that doesn't just easily translate like some of the other assets do. It's like you're buying the entire grocery store instead of just a banana. But you can get it. You just have to go through another step. All right, so I think I downloaded that iceberg, and I think I have a penguin here too. I'm just freestyling right now. I don't want a reindeer. I want a penguin. I mean, I have so much stuff. Add to project. How big is this penguin? Oop. Oh, here's a case. See, my project doesn't pop up. So show all projects, blank, and then down bottom here it says this asset's not compatible with 5.1. Please select the closest alternative version. All right, 5.0. Add to project. 99 times out of 100, this will work fine. It's just the developer of the asset didn't push through an update officially. It's almost never a big deal unless there's a lot of programming involved in your asset. All right, so now that I've added those to my project, you see that they should also pop up here in my content browser. Ice Cool and Penguin.
It's cool.
That's what the asset's called. What did I just download? There's some meshes here, it looks like. I guess this is an ice cube. I don't know. I'm freestyling, like I said, and get myself into trouble. Oops.
What's it textured like that?
Because that's just the default texture. I'm not sure why it's not textured. It's strange. Yeah, it looks like I downloaded a bad asset, guys. So sometimes when you get assets, they'll actually include maps too that will show you how to use the asset. Maybe I'll just open up that map and maybe that will be a more complete object. So the trouble I get in by freestyling. Depending on how crazy the map is, it might take a little while to load. All right, well, this is something. See, it's kind of like a gallery of showing you how to use the assets. But good enough to start. So, where's my penguin at? So my penguin here, see the penguin also has maps that show demonstrations of how to use the asset. Almost every asset that you get from the marketplace has a map that shows you how to use it. A map or two. If you have meshes or animations and stuff, you just drag them right into the level. Next week we're going to go much more into detail about animations and specific assets in Unreal. So, don't feel overwhelmed right now. There's a lot of animations here. I'm not going to explain how to set up animations yet. I'm just going to drag this guy in. And animations don't work automatically. They need to be driven by a timeline somehow with keyframes, or you need to click the play button. The play button's up top here. The play button or the simulate button. If you click these little dots to the right here, you pick simulate. Simulate leaves your camera where it is and turns on any sort of animations that are autoplay. Play will actually make turn you into a first-person video game character. Or if you have the third-person pack, let you run around as a third person. So see how it's not animated, but if I click simulate, now he's animated and it's just looping. Yeah. So, animations is something that we work with a lot in this class. For motion capture, we're going to dive into all of that starting next week. There's a lot of stuff. And I'll show you how to animate things manually as well. Yeah, that's about all we have time for today. But with those simple things, just drag a bunch of shit in and move it around. That's your assignment. Okay? And how do you make a post about it? You take a screenshot. Just do a screen recording if you want it to be video. If you want to drive me around your level, you can do that. If you just want it to be like a screenshot, you can do that. Whatever you want to do.
Time for some avant-garde arts.
Yup. The more vaporwave, the better. The more penguins, the better.
Which is there like a new thing Discord? Or will there be?
There will be. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I forget to do that, so it reminds me. Yeah, sorry we went right up to the end today. And thanks for dealing with my cough. Sucks. So unless you hear otherwise, we meet here. Later in the semester, there may be instances where we meet down in the studio, but we're not to that point yet. If that's the case, it will say so on Discord. Okay? Yep, see you.